Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 97 of the Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast. This episode is brought to you by our good friends at Cosmic Eye Beer. They are a family-owned brewery out of Lincoln, Nebraska, with some truly delicious beer. If you're in the area, swing on by the tasting room. If you go on a Monday and wear a metal band shirt, you're going to get $1 off of a full pour. I mean, no one else is doing that. While you're there, pick up some cans. Send them to your friends. Send them all over the country. Spread the word. Cosmic Eye Beer is making amazing beers. And they've just recently made a collaboration beer with our guest today. Well, his band, actually, Spotlights. Chris Enriquez. He's the drummer for Spotlights. He also plays drums in the band Primitive Weapons. And he also works at Revolver magazine. We had a great conversation about music, about their upcoming album, Love and Decay, which comes out April 26th. We do a little reminiscing about New York and New Jersey. We get a little bit of inside baseball with the music industry and how it works and the hardships that come along with it and much more, man. I had a great time talking to him, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to check out the band. Pick up the album Love and Decay when it comes out. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Cheers.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, man. How's it going? Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Not bad, dude. Just, I got lucky here. I'm starting out work, but I just got word that not many people were coming in, so I'm chilling.
What's what's work for you right now?
So I work at Revolver magazine as my day job, and it's pretty typical, like hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
And what are you doing generally? Like, what's a day look like for you?
Generally, like when I actually am not traveling, because they let me go on the road, obviously. I'm in here 10 to 6, selling ads, setting up events. It's kind of like a multitude of different things, but in general, I'm the guy that is responsible for selling print and digital ads and sponsorships and all that fun stuff.
Nice.
I say that fun being ironic. It's kind of a pain in the ass.
All the non-glamorous side of the music industry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, somebody's got to find a way to keep the lights on, and working in, I don't even know if I should call it rock music anymore because it's just a whole bunch of stuff, but working in what I work in is, it's fun, but it's not as, what's the right word? Yeah, it's like you're hustling, man. Like you hustle, to get just a few $100 sometimes, a couple of $1,000. So, it's a tough grind.
Yeah, no, it's like that. And a lot of people don't get it, man. That fans of the music, everybody just assumes that musicians are doing all right. It's like, no, man, this is it's a rough gig.
Yeah, it's true, man. But for those of us that can find a way in and make it work, I try to remember that it's a lot better than being a plumber or something. No offense to anyone's a plumber.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just
I'm
not.
sure a plumber pays better.
Yeah, plumbers make good money, but it's not for everyone. I mean, so I know people that will straight up tell you that they rather just work with their hands. They rather just be somebody doing like physical labor. Whereas me, I'm the other way around. Like, I'll do physical labor if I have to. I just rather not.
Exactly. It's weird too, because I know people that like doing that stuff. I am not that guy. So you and I have that in common.
Well, let's do a little introduction, because I'm sure people are listening. They're like, what the fuck's happening? All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm going to start calling it that because people are getting turned off by the beer part of it sometimes. And I know you're not drinking anymore. So, welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Chris Enriquez. You play drums in the band Spotlights. You also play drums in Primitive Weapon. Am I right? Primitive
That's
Weapons.
correct, yeah.
Multiple weapons. And if, like you just said, you also work for Revolver, so that's awesome. Did you guys do anything big, like an event for 420 or anything like that?
You know what? We had some cool social posts up. I know a ton of them actually. Many fitting ones, a few Cypress Hill related ones. I know, and I think, but no, we didn't do. I actually own a bar in Brooklyn as well, so I did a 420 stoner metal doom, classic rock party on Saturday night,
Nice, 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 nice. Yeah,
which is
I've
so.
seen pictures of you at that bar, and I was always like, man, he's always there. I wonder if he owns it or works there. Or
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, it's something I opened up with my friends a few years ago because we all, and we all grew up in New York, and many of us like would just set up events at bars, and we'd leave with like a very small fraction of the money. So we thought maybe one day we should open up our own bar.
Yeah, man, that's always been a dream of mine. But once I started working in the actual beer industry, I started seeing all the owners and how like they're all stressed out from like paperwork and money not making sense, and it's like, I don't know.
You know what though? They're right, and I probably shouldn't talk about it publicly, but I'll tell you this: it's just not an easy. I guess that we're finding a theme here. I didn't find very easy paths in life, but
Yeah,
but I'm thankful that they're fun. I'll take the fun over the I think it's a good exchange. It's stressful, but it's fun at the same time. So there's a nice
yeah.
balance there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like again, same thing with the music. People don't like people just go to a bar, they have fun, they fucking drink, and then they go home. They don't think about all the little nuances and people calling out. Well, like, oh shit, my head bartender just called out, so I guess I'm bartending tonight or something like that. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, man. People cancel sometimes at the last minute, and you can't. You have to just figure out what to do on the spot.
I apologize. I did that to you.
Oh no, I wasn't referring to that. I've been guilty of that too because I know you're also a busy guy, so no worries.
Oh well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, it was just weird, man. I just got things like thrown at me left and right, and it's been building slowly, and through the years with the podcast and everything. And it's like I hate to do that to people because at the end of the day, I'm doing this to have fun and just have conversations with people that are like minded and are in the industry and are doing crazy things. I like that we have this. So I hate having to cancel on people who are hey, let's reschedule. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, no, no, no sweat. It's unfortunate, but I have to do that all the time too because it's like juggling two bands, a bar, and a day job, and probably other stuff I'm forgetting. It's like shit comes up, and you feel awful, but hopefully people understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, man, that's got to be hard to balance like all those things at once. Like, I couldn't imagine owning a bar on top of, running two bands and working for Revolver. Daytime hours.
I think it's the New Yorker in me, man. We're all, when you're born and raised in New York,
Mm.
there is a thing I think that's true, which is that the word hustle takes on a new meaning because we're surrounded by so much stuff out here, and that's not to take away from any area, but like growing up, it's so overwhelming. You see things you want to get involved with, and the next thing you know, you have like five things in your life that are just there every day. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. I found myself at one point having like four jobs, and I sat on my couch and almost passed out. I'm like, what the hell's happening? I'm like, oh wait, I'm an idiot. Like, what? Spreading
Well, you know
myself too
what?
thin.
That's a thing that I think maybe some people can't relate to. I don't know, but like I certainly can, and I think it's also part of just getting excited about stuff. I mean, like it's one thing if you have to get a bunch of jobs because you just need to grind and make money, but if you just have interest and excitement for different things, then that'll also work its way in a strange fashion. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess we have that in common. I was born actually in Jersey. So I grew up in that New York area, hanging out in the village and going to shows at CBGBs and stuff like that. I went to the Rose Ballroom to see the Deftones fucking when they did their self-titled the evening.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, I grew up there. I get that vibe, and it's kind of beneficial for me when you come to places like LA, where everybody here is like, kind of more chill. Everybody's kind of relaxing, and that West Coast vibe that they say. So I come out here and hustle, and they're like, "Whoa, you get a lot of work done." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I don't know. I think it's got something to do with the culture of, like, in New York, when you're in a place and you're just surrounded by people all the time and it's very overwhelming.
Mm.
It also, I think, if you have ADD like me, it makes you feel like if you're just sitting still and not doing anything, you get really bored. For me, at least.
Mm.
And then you just want to, you just want to find stuff to occupy your time. And even when it stresses you out, the minute you don't have something to do, it just feels strange.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I feel that
But
way, man. I
yeah.
feel you. I had one time where I was unemployed for like a couple months, and I was like in between jobs, and I was just like, oh, well, I guess I'm starting 4 band projects, and guess what? I'm going to start doing art. Fuck it.
Yeah, they don't even have to be for money, because if it was for money, well, at least for me, I would be doing something else. Trust me. But it's just that, like, idea of, like, keeping your mind inspired, I guess.
For sure, for sure. Well, speaking of that, you are playing with Spotlights now. You have been for a while, but I think I saw like an announcement from them, like, "Oh, Chris is officially in the band." And you guys are putting out Love and Decay, which thankfully I've already had a chance to hear, and it's fantastic. What kind of input did you have, this time, since it felt like they were making an announcement that you were like a permanent member, and so how much input did you have when it came to writing?
Well, thanks for the kind words, Eddie. Appreciate it,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like, in this band, I kind of follow the lead, because it was really their band for years. But I think because I've been playing with them, I feel like it's been 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 years now. Something about, like, even if you're just a touring drummer and playing with a band, I think ultimately will affect how the writing process is thought about. So I think when Mario put this album together, he kept certain nuances or just characteristics in mind of how I play.
Mm.
At least he told me that. I don't know if he was just trying to make me feel better, but because he's a great drummer and played on all of the other albums, at least most of the songs. But yeah, I don't know. I think he just sort of like kind of gave me a freedom and wrote certain things in mind with how I play. And he definitely, I'm not going to take the fact away from him that he came up with the skeleton. He definitely sent me drum parts programmed before I even sat down to learn the songs. But he let me throw in some of my own flavor, and as the recording process sort of evolved from the first track to the last track, I think we just got into more of a comfortable momentum where you're listening to the album, and I think we recorded it in a similar order to the way it is on the recording. And like I just remember, like, some of the last songs that we worked on, I was able to experiment more and do things that were a little different from what he initially sent me. So I feel like that was probably the most I could really say I added to the sound, at least for me. I don't want to take away from those guys, because they've been writing some great music for years, and I was actually a fan of Spotlights before I even started playing with them. So it's just exciting to finally be on a record after having been on the road with them for so long.
Nice, man. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of our mutual friends have that same process. Like, you look at Dillinger, and they did the same. Well, like Ben would come up with some drums and then send it over to Billy or whoever was drumming at the time, and they would kind of work from there and add flair and add pieces. So, and I get it. I mean, that's sometimes has to be, especially with projects like that, where it's like Ben was Dillinger, and so in this case, I guess since Mario and Sarah, that's the core, I guess.
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that, because I'm actually good friends with all those guys. And I mean, man, I can't even, that music that Dillinger plays, I'm such a huge fan, but I can't even put myself into that. Like, I think it's really cool that they developed a way of writing where it kind of seems like Ben and Billy sort of really became the core, especially towards like the later part of their career, like where,
Mhm.
like you said, like Ben would send Billy stuff and they would work off of each other, and then the rest was sort of, fell into place. But yeah, man, I over the years, I realized that the best bands, even dating back to like, Nirvana or something like that, like, you know, you get a good songwriter and you kind of trust that they're going to lead you in the right direction. And, I get made fun of for this sometimes, but I'm also a big Foo Fighters fan, and I think that dynamic sort of works in that band. If you sort of read up on how Taylor Hawkins and Dave Grohl work together, and the other guys sort of just fall into place, and they're all great players, but if you can trust somebody to give you that foundation and know that they're going to give you something good, then there's a consistency to the sound. You know what I mean? So that's something I believe in.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. And I wanted to ask you this because, I don't really have a lot of guests on here that also work in the industry, like you're working for Revolver and stuff like that. Um, and I wanted to ask your thoughts on this because I feel like as I'm getting older, I also grew up with that mentality of like, oh, people are going to make fun of me for listening to this, or, they're going to kind of tease me for being a fan of that. And it's like, when you're in the business of trying to promote bands and trying to promote the industry as a whole, like I've had guests on here where I've had text messages afterwards and people are like, really? You interviewed that guy? And it's like, dude, what? Like, what do you mean? Leave them alone. They're just making music. What's
Yeah,
going on?
I can relate to that very much. I mean, if you go online, I don't really do this as much as I used to, but I used to get involved with the editorial part of the company here at Revolver, and there's videos of me interviewing Disturbed. There's
Mm-hmm.
videos of me interviewing Papa Roach, and here's the thing, man. Like, yeah, it's my day job, but at the end of the day, and this is something I, will admit, when I was younger, before I was in the industry, I didn't really exercise this philosophy until I got older. But like, the fact is, a lot of these guys are making music because that's what they do for a living, and they are just as passionate about what they're doing as I am about what I'm doing. And it's like, we're not always gonna like everything that comes out. That's part of what makes the world interesting, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, but a lot of, one thing I'm sure you can relate to is, whether or not people like Disturbed. David Draymond was a really nice guy.
Mm.
Every single member of Papa Roach is a fucking great guy. Every single one of them. I've become friends with those guys. Um, would it make sense for Spotlights to go on tour with Papa Roach?
No.
Probably. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that out loud, but like, I mean, I guess I did. I'm on a podcast, but like,
Yeah.
thing is, like, a lot of times people say this stuff. I get it. They don't know these people, but I think where you and I come into perspective, it's like we're all doing the same thing. Maybe one band or one guy might be a dick, but it's no different than real life. So you can't really like get too down on people about music, and people are gonna do it, but I do get. I would be lying to you if I didn't admit that once in a while I get a little paranoid about people seeing what I do and thinking that I might be, you know, this huge new metal guy. And
Right. Right.
whatever. Like, some of it is stuff that I might like better than the rest, but in general, that's not really my cup of tea. It's just you have a job, literally and also figuratively, to serve a purpose. And in this case, we're talking about taking high profile artists and putting them in a situation on a platform where they have a new record out or something, and that's just what we do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I want to say that I don't get it, but I get it. I get it. I used to be young and dumb too, and I never really, I used to make fun of people for their musical taste. Like, as I got older, it just kind of went away, and it's more like you said, most of these dudes are super nice, like very, very nice people. And it's made me question myself too sometimes because I'll become friends with some people, and I'll get messages later like, that guy's a dick. Why are you his friend? I'm like, well, I don't know. He wasn't a dick to me.
Right. Yeah. And, not to harp too much on it, but you would be surprised, as far, at least in my world, I think you and I probably have some common. Like, I grew up on a lot of hardcore and punk music growing up, and a lot of these guys in these new metal bands grew up on identical music. Like, if you talk to them, I know most people don't get that opportunity, but, like, they're coming from a very similar place, and if they had, like, a hit at some point in their career and saw that it worked, they're just kind of, I can't speak for all, but some of these bands I feel are just sort of like, oh, well, this is what I do now for a living. And I had a couple of hits when I was in my 20s. I'm in my 40s now, and I'm going to run with it. And it's like, again, like I was saying earlier, like a lot better than being a plumber. You know what I mean? And it's like, so, hey, man, I can't say I wouldn't do the same.
Yeah. My answer's usually been now for people like that. It's like, man, if they sucked that much, they wouldn't have as many fans as they do, I don't think. You know what I mean? Look at Nickelback. People make fun of Nickelback all the time. I don't like the music per se, but someone does. They're selling millions of records.
Yeah, exactly. There's somebody else's favorite band, and you know what? If I had an opportunity to book Nickelback at like some like special events, I would do it in a second without thinking about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I might catch heat for it, but you know what? You can't ignore you can't ignore the public, and and it's not like, I don't know, people get so dramatic. It's not like, oh man, like I'm booking like an alt-right. It's like, we're just talking about music, man. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, I mean,
screwdriver.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. I get certain people's points. Like, there's a lot of heat right now with what happened with As I Lay Dying and their comeback. And I'm sure you're dealing with it because you're working with the magazine. Like it's weird. It's a weird subject, and sometimes you got to make choices, I guess. But I don't know, man. Anyway, let's not harp on that too much. Your last name is Enriquez, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is that? Where's that coming from? 'Cause I'm Cuban, so I recognize the Latino.
Yes, I love that. My best friend's last name is Torres, so there you go.
Nice.
I'm actually Filipino, which basically is a mixture of the two. My middle, when I say a mixture of the two, I mean Latino and Asian, more specifically Chinese. But my middle name's Armando, so there's another Spanish name for you.
Jesus, Armando Enriquez. I mean, I might as well be Cuban.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like if you took out the name Chris, I would just sound like a sick Spanish singer.
Man, do you know? There's this. Now you mentioned 6 Spanish singers. Do you know Christian Castro?
I do not.
He's like a big popular Latin singer, like pop singer, kind of like I wouldn't, kind of like an Enrique Iglesias type of deal.
Yeah.
And the guy has a giant Tool back piece.
Well, I'm surprised. That's funny, man. I'm surprised that I haven't heard about him, not just because of the Tool back piece, but I on the topic, my mother worked for Telemundo for a long time, so I was just around. She was always playing these Spanish singers in the house, and like always had Telemundo on. So, for a nice chunk of time before she retired, I was very familiar with all the hot Latino artists.
Yeah. That's part of the culture. When I was growing up, like my mom would show me all these older dudes, and I've been going back to check them out now that I'm a little older and like, involved in the music industry in a way, and it's like. I'm like admiring them, like Enrique Iglesias' father. What's his name? Julio Iglesias.
Julio.
Yeah, and like Roberto Carlos, which is the Puma, is like fucking that guy's a G.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny, man. I know this is like slightly off topic, but like one of my favorite things to listen to when I get stressed out is actually bossa nova, and I always put on Antonio Carlos Obim. I know I'm not saying it like a proper Latino because I was just never around. I was around a mostly a mixture of Filipino, which is Tagalog, and mostly English, but very Americanized. But anyway, yeah, Antonio Carlos Obim. I love listening to him and just bossa nova whenever I'm stressed out. So it's a little funny tidbit.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What am I listening to when I'm stressed? I think it's mostly just like my girl's gotten me into this like lo-fi jazz hip hop stuff that, you know, you go to YouTube and they're just streaming 24/7 this like lo-fi hip hop stuff, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. Just put that on in the background and relax, I guess. I don't even know the names of the artists, which is kind of shitty. I guess I should pay
Yeah,
attention.
man.
Yeah, but yeah, there's like a lot. There's like a whole community of that on YouTube where they're just streaming 24/7, like just hip hop beats with like little jazzy pieces on top of it and like Nintendo sounds.
Dude, please share that. That sounds right up my alley.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll send it to you when we're done with this. Tell me a little bit about Primitive Weapons. I know, are you guys writing new music? Did you guys release it recently? I feel like I saw the name pop up recently.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Primitive Weapons has been around for like about 9, 10 years. We're playing, like, I don't want to say it's our last show, but probably like a last show for a long time at least. On May 9th at St. Vitus with Billy from Dillinger Escape Plan's band,
Nice.
Thought Crimes. But you know, so, and also Ben from Dillinger put us out on Party Smashers. So I think we have three records out on Party Smasher. I know that sounds silly. I should know that, but our our latest record came out earlier this year, and yeah, man, we you know, it's comprised of myself and a bunch of guys that own and run the Brooklyn club St. Vitus, which I think people all over the place know what that is at this point, like kind of like a CBGB's thing. And it just started out at a time, I think, in Brooklyn. I don't know if it was like this everywhere else. When my friends and I from Long Island moved to Brooklyn, we were kind of coming out of the hardcore scene and trying to expand our horizons a little bit. And the city provided more of like an artistic sort of outside of the box, you know, stuff. You know, so we were really getting into like more eclectic stuff outside of hardcore and whatnot. And then I think at some point when like the skinny tie, you know what I'm talking about, like the skinny tie mid 2000s hipster thing really just started getting really played out. I think we really wanted to get back. I know it sounds cheesy, but like kind of back to our roots or where we came from. So we started a band with a bunch of Long Island dudes and wanted it to be heavy. And it was just what we grew up on. And ever since then, we've just been putting out a few records every other year. Not really a full-time thing, but we got on some really good tours and, you know, really stoked about what we were able to accomplish in that time.
Nice, man. And so, but why is it the final show for now, or, you know, because I know everybody says like, oh, we're breaking up, and then like 10 years later they'll do another like a reunion. So why is it for now? Like, why is it ending? Is it because you took on a full time with Spotlights, or is it just kind of everybody's got stuff going on?
Well, you know, I should actually retract because I don't want the guys to get upset with me. Like, I don't know if it's like I think we're just saying it's our last show for a while, you know, so we're keeping it like open ended. But like, we've been doing it for a long time, and it's, you know, it's never been like a full time thing or even like a real goal to make it that way. And in that time, we just all got very busy with other stuff. So our singer Dave Castillo, shout out to Dave, he's been just getting more into DJing and electronic music. He's always been into that stuff, but he just put out a new record under the name Confines on a label called Synthesized. So that's his like kind of new baby, and I think where he wants to go. While I sort of delve more into Spotlights, and then the other guys, Artie and Eric, they have a really great rock band called Aegis, which is kind of like a Hot Snakes thing, and they're more kind of, you know, we all love music, but I think what comes natural to those guys is sort of that whole vibe. And yeah, we're just kind of like focusing more on what makes what takes up more of our creative energy nowadays, I think, and so it's just worked out that way.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it happens, dude. You know, people like I was in a band for 10 years in Miami, and that was like my life. Like I couldn't see past it, you know. When we were in it, it was like, that was it. Like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And then, you know, 10 years later, everybody kind of like, hey, I need to like move to Colorado, and hey, I need to move to Seattle. And like, I moved to LA. So it was just kind of like, all right, I guess we're taking a break.
Yeah. It's like awkward, you know, and something else, they replace people and stuff. We've tried that, but I think that's like kind of a tough thing too. It's like, you know, when you start to, keep replacing people over and over again, and it's like, you know what, maybe we should respect, the time that we can dedicate, and when we can't, we should just sort of leave it. It's
Mhm.
like we are the guys that started the whole thing, so let's keep it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting how some bands can pull it off. Like we were just talking about Dillinger, and that whole band, like it has rotated through members. Pretty much the only member left is Ben from the beginning.
Yeah,
So but it works for him, and it works for a lot of bands. And then there's some bands that you look at and you don't want a replacement at all. Like look at Deftones. The only reason that Sergio's there and not Chi is because of the tragedy. So that band has been together from the beginning, and I don't think they can do another. Like if Abe were to call it quits, I don't think that Deftones should keep going. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I feel you because it's a signature sound. Those are it's tough to say, but like a lot of my favorite bands are bands that you couldn't replace anybody in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do it, but it's like, you know, look, Sabbath replaced Ozzy with Dio. It wasn't the same band. It was still good.
Mm-hmm.
Van Halen did it. You know what I mean? But
Right.
um,
But it's
it's
two
just
different bands at that point. Like even
it's
even
too
Van
different.
Halen, like what do they call it? Van Hagar.
Van Hagar, and people hate on that. I will admit I do like some Van Hagar, but but yeah, like it's some bands like if you replaced Abe Cunningham, it just wouldn't sound the same. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's and that's what makes the special ingredients of Deftones, as good as it is.
for sure, for sure. And I wanted to ask you if you were going to do another project, or do you have another project that maybe I don't know about, and I apologize if I don't.
Not nothing that is predominant or that anyone knows about. I am starting like a fun little hardcore band, but I'll save that for the next
Ha,
podcast.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because I was gonna say, if you wanted to start a new project, what direction would you go? Because I mean, Primitive Weapons is like you said, like a hardcore heavy band. Spotlights is really heavy, but it's also kind of spacey and melodic, and it has a different vibe. It's obviously not hardcore. Still devastating and crushing live, like the heaviness of it. But where would you go? Would it be heavy also? Would you want to try and dip your toes in something else?
It's so tough to say because I like so many different kinds of music. I think that's what is attractive to me about Spotlights was just hearing a multitude of sounds that Mario and Sarah were able to put together. I mean, it's such a mixture of a lot of stuff that I grew up listening to, whether it's like the more alternative '90s sounding stuff, the post-hardcore stuff. So I don't know. It's like I get very overwhelmed, and every once in a while, I was actually starting to record a solo project where I played everything on it, and it ended up sounding a little more. I hate to use this term, but just like it sounded very early '90s rock to me.
Hmm.
A few friends said that it sounded like I don't know if you guys know Quicksand or Rival Schools, like
Oh
that kind
man,
of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, but and then on the flip side, like I said, I'm actually starting a project now where I play guitar, and my goal was for it to be like Negative Approach, early Agnostic Front, 1 minute and a half songs, really generic on purpose. Like record it in one take, like because it's as strange as it sounds for anyone that knows me for Spotlights. Like I listen to a lot of like old school punk rock and hardcore music, whether it's like the Dead Boys or the Bad Brains, all eras of that. So it's tough to say. It would probably be one of the other. It would probably be a really old school hardcore punk rock project,
Hmm.
or a like straight up like early '90s grunge sounding rock band. I don't know. you know,
Nice,
yeah,
nice, man. I
yeah.
wanted to, and you were talking about this earlier with your dude from Primitive Weapons, and I wanted to bring it up. I feel like there's a resurgence of like industrial kind of electronic music coming. I don't know if it's just me because I'm kind of out of the loop a little bit in that world, but like Three Teeth is doing a lot of work, and like Ramstein's coming back. I know the new Silver Snakes is pretty industrial heavy. Like it sounds like a Nine Inch Nails song, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm just. Have you noticed that too?
Oh, completely. It's something that actually is funny, like that we talk about a lot. Me and actually, I talk about it with everyone at work, friends of mine, and also with my bandmates because it's. I think in New York is and LA, obviously, but like I think that in New York you start to notice a lot of trends happening as they sort of right as they start before they even hit. And in this case, we're talking about like even just on an underground level, but Three Teeth is an obvious one right now because they've been getting a lot of just hype.
Hmm.
And Youth Code, I think, were sort of one of the first of the resurgence when it really kind of started turning into what it's now becoming, I guess. But I see it here in Brooklyn. I've been, seeing a DJ. She's my girlfriend, but yeah, she takes me out to a lot of these events, and man, I see thousands of people at these things. It's out of control. You know what I mean? So I see it firsthand in front of me, but I also notice it at my day job at work because of the coverage
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
have been getting a lot of stuff editorially. But I think it's cool. I think that again, going back to what we were saying before, trends come in different cycles. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think it gets a little weird when people start doing stuff to be cool, but I think it's a natural cycle of what people want to hear after they get tired of something else. So
Right.
right now it's industrial, and there's some good bands out there. It's a loose term, but I mean, Health is a great band. I don't know what to classify them as, but I also like Youth Code, and there's probably a ton of others that I oh yeah. Then you have like the new wave thing like Drab Majesty and Cold Cave. I think it's all great stuff.
I've been hearing Drab Majesty and Cold Cave, like their names, they just keep popping up. So I'm gonna have to eventually check it out. I know I saw a picture of Drab Majesty and it looked interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of that too happening. Like I've noticed, kind of an increase in bands that are, I don't want to say gimmicks, but are kind of dressed up in outfits and they have like a thing. And I'm a pro wrestling fan, so I'm not offended by any of it. So I actually prefer that bands do something to make it. It's supposed to be art, right?
Yeah,
You're supposed to make it interesting. I think in all aspects, not
yeah,
just
yeah.
the music. Like the music's a good, obviously the main part, but like I saw Uada over at Psycho Smokeout the other day, and I hadn't seen them live. I had only heard their music, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole show production. They're all wearing cloaks, and they look crazy on stage, and I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, you're right, and you know what? You and I think have that in common, where we're probably a little more open minded, maybe because of the fact that we talk to artists all the time. But it's listen, it's like would Kiss's whole thing be as exciting if they didn't wear makeup? I don't know, maybe not. And and like would Nirvana be strange to watch on stage if they had teased up hair? You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
probably.
Yeah.
So I think really the aesthetic of whatever it is you're set out to accomplish makes sense. It's like there's a reason why Gore wears costumes. There's a reason why Spotlights doesn't wear costumes. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like
Exactly.
maybe we'd sell millions of records. I don't know, but I think that like really whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you want to get dressed up, hey man, more power to you. You know what I mean?
Hell
Um,
yeah.
unless you're a juggalo, then that's a different story.
Yeah, another band I saw, like I was gonna say for spotlights, obviously don't think costumes are a good idea, but like visuals, I see like a lot of really cool visuals in my head, like just like a projector with some cool imagery in the background or something like that. Like who was it that I saw at the same festival? Oh, Amin Ra, which
Oh
uh,
yeah.
they're amazing. And then I saw they had like a crazy projector in the back, and the singer was just like progressively ripping his shirt off throughout the set, and eventually until eventually he had no shirt. And I was like, all right, see, this is like a whole performance, like a performance art piece.
Very pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's very pro wrestling. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we tried that a few times, and I think we ultimately want to do that every night. It's just like more about the funds, I guess,
Yeah, the
right? So
logistics.
yeah, yeah. So if you ever see spotlights and we have projectors and lighting, it means that we're doing okay.
Nice, nice.
uh,
Yeah.
but we haven't gotten there yet, so it's only happened a few times.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. And I wanted to ask you too. So we mentioned it at the top of the show, but the beer thing. I know that you've been sober for a bit.
Yeah.
So tell me about it. Like, what made the choice? Because I mean, I'm not. I'm obviously. I have a reputation. People are like, "Hey, don't come." Don't. I've had people tell me, "Don't bring the cooler, man," because I always show up. I show up to shows with a cooler, and it's not because I'm a raging alcoholic. I just like to provide a good time and
Hell yeah.
have some ready, and it's usually like quality shit. I'm not bringing you a cooler of Natty Ice. I'm bringing some fancy bottles and stuff like that. So, but why did you make that choice to go sober?
Well, before I get into that, I should do a shout out. So, Cosmic Eye Brewing, since this is a beer podcast too,
Yes.
did put out a new Spotlights beer, but I think it's only available in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes, I'm lucky. I got a little growler of it because Sam's a good friend. They're also the sponsors of the podcast. So shout out to Cosmic Eye.
You tell I'm a sales guy. But no, I just had a situation in my life where I've been working at bars for years, and I've been in bands and just around nightlife. And what comes along with that, which sounds really cliche, is you overindulge and things start to become available to you. To the point where again, this kind of goes to the theme of what we're saying about life and music. It's like it's fun. There's a lot of great shit going on. I can't complain about the fact that I get a lot of free drinks. That's part of working in bars and working in nightlife is there's a lot of drinks, there's a lot of this, and there's a lot of that. So for me, it just got to a point where things were too available to me. I had a hard time figuring out where to draw the line. And, once it started getting into like substances and things more than just drinking, I really had to sort of take a look at myself. And, it's the third time I've decided to go sober, but I think now at this point, as I get older, it seems a little more clear to me, what I can or can't handle. So, every once in a while I get real bummed out because I do want to have a really nice bottle of wine with dinner, or, I have friends that have craft beer, a really good craft beer companies and just places like bars and stuff that I unfortunately cannot indulge in, but I still go out and will hang with them until like 4 a.m. And, it's just part of that energy of being in nightlife is I like to stay out and be around it. But I personally, man, no one should have to see me when I get fucked up. It just turns into on the wrong night, it turns into a disaster. And you could ask any of my bandmates; they'll probably tell you the same.
Yeah, man, I totally get it. It's something that some people aren't good drunks, I guess. Like I just get quiet, which throws people off because I talk a lot and I'm always making noise. But they're like, when I get quiet, that's when people know to cut me off.
Man, I wish I got quiet. I get fucking loud as fuck.
Yeah.
Not like I'm always a very loving drunk. Like I love everybody, or if I'm high or whatever, like, I'm just trying to be a little discreet here because I might have family listening, but like, I get real friendly with people, but, it's the opposite. People, I don't know, that term that everyone uses. People always say I'm the biggest punisher when I get fucked up. So I got to be careful with that.
Oh man, yeah, I'm sure I've punished some folks with one too many drinks. I know I've definitely punished some folks. So I'm not gonna pretend I haven't. But it's funny you mentioned that, man, because it is an easy way. It's easy to fall into that when you're in this world. Like there's just free drinks, there's free everything. And I grew up poor in Jersey, and I never turned down something that's free. Like it's just one of those things. Like, hey, you want a free shirt? What is it? Nope, give me. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'll take it. If I don't wear it, I'll give it to someone else. Like that's always been me. So like for example, this Psycho Smokeout Fest that I did, like, was that yesterday? Saturday? The second I walked in, someone handed me a dab rig, and I'm like, I don't do dabs. And they're like, well, it's right here though. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And it's like shit, and then like the rest of the day, I'm like, oh my god, now I gotta like drink water and relax because I gotta maintain a semblance of professionalism. I'm handling like the Instagram for Orange,
Oh, shit, there's that too, right?
Yeah, man.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it
Well,
is. It's hard to
it's
find that the I guess the willpower, the strength to just know when to turn down. Like, hey, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like especially if you're like in our line of work, it's hard to know where you draw the line because it's like to everybody else that's at a show, they're just hanging out with their friends. It's time to get drunk. For me, it feels that way, but at the same time, I might have like 20 clients in the room. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So it's like they probably, I mean, they probably shouldn't see me that fucked up. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like there's like a weird sort of disposition, if that's the right word, you know?
Yeah, 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 man. Well, power to you, brother. I hope you do what you got to do. I'm never one to push. Like I'm proud that I've had people on the show that don't drink because I've had that issue where like I'll reach out to someone like Kurt Ballou, for example. Like it's like, hey man, you want to be on the Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast? He's like, I don't drink. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's cool, and you made that distinction. But you know what? Like, it's something I still like talking about, though. I love that I have friends who are so passionate about craft beer. I have friends that work at one of my good friends, one of my best friends, owns a place called Beer Street. To give him a plug,
Nice.
in Williamsburg, and that's like a tiny little boutique bar, I guess I could call it, because like all the beer companies compete just to get like served in there because it's a very limited lineup. And his name's Corey Bonfiglio. So just
Nice.
give him a plug. He was written about in the New York Times. They called him a New York beer legend. And so he's one guy. Then I have a lot of friends at KCBC and what's the other one at Barrier Brewery.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
some of these guys I'm sure you're already aware of because they make beers for bands. You know.
yeah.
So yeah, that's something I hear about a lot, and I admire it. I still will ask somebody if I could smell a beer or a wine, and just like sit there and get stoked, that people are enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. It's one of those things. Like I've considered, going sober. I don't think I'm the personality type to do that. Like I think it would actually be detrimental to me, only because I start overthinking things and like my brain just goes a million miles an hour. Like sometimes I need to just like put a wet towel over it, like, and that wet towel being a beer.
Right. I wish I could do that. No, I think that's true though. Like for some people, smoking weed does that for them, and for others, that could be a nightmare. So, like, I know people that can function better and do work when they're high, which is, and we all have different sort of mannerisms. So whatever works.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I don't
Yeah.
think you're hurting anybody by doing that. I mean, some people they just abuse it, and that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Definitely, man. I think I've never really. I used to abuse it when I was young and, like I said, young and dumb. Like I didn't know the limits. Like, but once I started working in the industry, working for breweries and stuff like that, I started just kind of appreciating a different way and knowing not to take advantage of it. Like I can't have 10 IPAs that are 8% anymore. Like I used to when I was a
Right.
kid, but I can't do it anymore.
That's a lot, man. You know what?
Yeah.
Funny. I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but a friend of mine who's definitely an alcoholic was like, I said, "Why do you drink so much? Like, you drink all this beer, but you just drink fucking, Coors and Bud Light." And he's like, "Well, Chris, you can't have 25, 30 beers if you're an alcoholic. If
Mm.
if you have craft beers, you can't do that. It's too much. You'll have like five of them and you're full. You're done.
Yeah.
So that was a really funny reaction that I got. But yeah,
Yeah, it's funny that I know a few people like that. They're like, I'd rather drink 20 Coors than 5 IPAs. You know what I mean?
well, yeah, that's when you're not enjoying the taste anymore. It's just to get fucked up. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely not a proponent of that. Like, I don't like people just doing it to get fucked up. If I bring a beer to a show and I want, I'm saying this out loud. So any friends that invite me to shows, like, I'm not there to fuck you up. I'm just there. If you want to have a beer, I'll bring you a good, tasty one, and then that's it.
that's a good friend right now. There he is.
Oh man, but yeah, because that world, like you said, it's just easy to fall into it. You go backstage, there's beers everywhere, there's other things, and it's just you gotta have the self control, and good on you for doing so, man. And I wish you luck in that world, and even maybe in a few years, if you find the strength in you to just be like, I'll have one, and I know that I can only have one. You know what I mean? Like that's where I want to be at some point. I'm definitely slowing down since I left the industry. So I'm only drinking at like shows, or if I, on the weekend or something. If I have a day, like I'm just gonna sit here and watch a movie, I'll have a beer. But I used to, working in the industry, I was doing it every day. It was one of those things. I'm visiting accounts. You're visiting 12, 15 bars a day, and you're sampling them out. You're like, hey, I have this beer. You want to try it? And then by the end of the day, I'm freaking wasted.
Dude, I had when I moved from Long Island to the East Village. I mean, this is at a really cool time when, like, you mentioned CB's. Like, CB's was still open. I lived around the corner, and like I worked for Pabst Blue Ribbon. They basically made me the account manager for like all of New York. So, well, all of New York City in Manhattan. So I should clarify, but that meant that I had full reign. I had a credit card. I set up events. I had like 12 cases delivered to my house a month where I lived alone. I was like 24 years old. Oof. And I basically, my job was to set up events, buy people beers, trying to like spread, the name out there and get into new accounts, the deal. So yeah. I did that everywhere from Chinatown to Harlem and in between. And I was a young kid, and I just fucking had a credit card and free beer. It was nuts. So you could kind of put one and one together and figure out how that worked out. I had some good nights, don't worry, but it definitely was like, wow, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, and you're gonna pay me.
Yeah, man. I feel very lucky that I was a part of that world for a while. I was kind of there for the boom in Miami when it like craft beer took off over there. And it was just nuts, having events like that, having friends come over. They're like, really? This is what you do for a living? I'm like, yep. I'm having a beer takeover. There's 50 beers on tap. They're all mine. Have fun.
Yeah. That's serious, man.
Yeah. And also doing like beer dinners too. That was great. Like working with chefs. Like, yeah, we're going to pair these 6 beers with the 6-course meal. I'm like, you're going to feed me too? All right.
I mean, that's awesome, man. That's the stuff that I like and miss because I'm a foodie too. So it's like, I really love that idea of a sommelier and the whole experience. So
yeah, fun. Man. Yeah, I got real lucky with that. I mean, Morimoto opened up a restaurant in Miami, and we got to hang out and to do fucking sake bombs and talk about food. I'm like, what's happening right now?
Yeah. It's like it's all classy until like 4 or 5 hours later.
yeah, man. All right, so let's to circle back. The album Love and Decay from Spotlights. It's releasing in a few days, April 26th.
Yeah, that's this Friday.
Nice. Well,
finally.
Big deal. That's a big deal. You guys doing like a CD release show or anything like that?
There are there's a bunch of shows that are going to be announced very soon. So we'll be kind of rolling out a lot of all that information once the record drops on Friday. So I'm really excited to let everyone know when we're coming to their city so that we can hang out and have some fun.
Hell yeah. Last time I saw you guys, you were playing with Quicksand that you mentioned and Glassjaw?
Yeah, Quicksand and Glassjaw. Actually, little funny thing about that, a band that I've tried out for 2 times, but never made it in the band. But one of my favorites. Really good guys.
Man. I love Glassjaw. I feel like they need to bring a second guitar player in. Like that's my only critique. It's like, dude, you guys sounded way fuller with 2 guitars. Bring one in. Bring someone else in.
It's funny you mentioned that. I just saw Todd, the guy who played second guitar, the other day at a hardcore show, actually. But
nice.
And he's more involved with techno music. So that's funny that you mentioned that as well, tying that together. But yeah, man, they're just like one of those bands that they've been doing it for so long, but they've had their changes, Mm-hmm. So. But I feel you. Those were some really good early records when they had 2 guitar players.
Yeah, it's not that the new music isn't good. I just feel like there's a little bit missing. There's like a little layer that I miss,
Yeah. Yeah.
But oh well, that's the way it is. But I'm excited to see who you guys hit the road with. You guys toured with Deftones too, I believe, right? At one point.
Yeah, man. My first show ever with Spotlights, which is fucking crazy. I never played a club with them. My first show ever was in the middle of a Deftones tour,
Jesus.
and like I've told this story many times, so it's like probably good for the podcast. But like I remember it was at the Stone Pony in New Jersey, and as if it wasn't nerve-wracking enough to play for like a couple thousand people, like I basically had Abe. I think Abe and Abe was to my right on stage right, and Chino was on stage left, and I could just see both of them and scattered members of the Refused throughout the entire show, and like fucking like a bajillion random guys from like hardcore bands that I grew up listening to in my childhood years, all there, just kind of watching, and I was like, "Fuck, man, this is crazy."
What a high pressure situation. First show, and then like all of these dudes just watching.
Yeah, and as soon as I was done, Abe Cunningham grabbed my bass drum as I was like getting my gear off the stage, and he goes, "You still nervous, man? Or are you good?" It's like, "I'm good, thank you." Really nice guys, but yeah, so that was weird.
Yeah, man. No, yeah. Abe's great, and Abe and Frank are usually the ones I hang out with whenever like Nam's in town. Those are the two dudes.
Oh yeah. I'm not surprised. I've seen them as a pair hanging out more than a few times, like South by Southwest. They came to our show in Sacramento with Glassjaw and Quicksand, the two of those guys, and they were just like fucking down to party and hang. It was really fun.
Nice.
I was still drinking at the time, so we were taking like it was actually the two of them, and I remember the drummer from Papa Roach came down with them, and we were just fucking hitting the bar.
Nice.
Having a good time, yeah.
Cool, man. And I have one weird one-off question that just popped into my head. Like I said earlier, I'm from New York, and you're still there. Do you still get fireworks in Chinatown? Is that still a thing over there?
I don't personally, and I probably sound boring because I was never the guy that went out there, but I mean, I did buy a lot of cheap, weird stuff in Chinatown. It just wasn't the fireworks. But yeah, people still do it. You can still go down there and get it. It's one of the only parts of New York that has not changed. I want to say it hasn't changed at all. I'm probably wrong, but it doesn't seem like it has changed at all.
I hope it's still super shady. It was so shady when I was a kid, man. Like, my dad and I would go down there, and he would, like, this dude, we would just run into some dude in the street, and he's like, all right, sit in this bench, I'll be right back. And he comes back with, like, a bag of fucking explosives, basically.
Yeah, dude,
super shady.
It is still shady. I mean, listen, like, I just have memories of, like, my mother buying like fake Louis Vuitton bags from like random Chinese people and like shit like that in like weird places. And also I used to manage a bar in Chinatown called Fontana's, RIP. And it was just like, dude, some of the fucking shit that I witnessed and saw out there was a lot of gambling rings, a lot of gangs, walking into like I'm not saying violence is cool by any means, but it was just an element of like old New York that I think in Chinatown might still be the case. But like, I don't know if someone lost a bet, but I definitely walked into a deli. It was like the Chinese Hispanic deli, which we would always make jokes about because that's what I am. And I walked in like on a Monday to get milk, in the middle of a work shift because we needed milk or whatever, and like a gigantic pool of blood on the floor. Definitely from a human being. Like, just like, oh, what's going on here? Can I pay for my milk? Like, yeah, Chinatown, man.
Yeah. Don't mind that. We just, a bag of beef broke.
Yeah, like right next to a bodega cat and someone coming out to mop it up. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I know it's not ketchup.
Yeah, dude, those are. I mean, yeah, my time in Jersey was very shady. My father, like, I've been open about it before too, but like, yeah, my dad spent time in prison. Let's just put it that way.
And you know what? I wasn't in prison, but I've been arrested more than a few times. So
yeah, man.
So I know what you mean, and that's also like not one of those things you glorify, but in New York, you just get in trouble and do stupid shit sometimes,
Yep, and there's not a whole lot of like people telling you not to, It's just like,
yeah,
you grow up, you do it. That's just what people are doing. Like, I don't know.
It's tough. it's a curiosity too. Like I'll never forget just coming to New York and being like, "Oh my God, that's an illegal warehouse party. I should go in there." Oh, that's happening too. I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? I've seen it in the movies.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh man, well, dude, thank you so much. I know you're busy. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry again for having to reschedule, but we got it done. Like you said, April 26th. Pick up Love and Decay. Like I said, I've been lucky that I listened to it, and it's fucking amazing. I can't wait to see you guys live and check out what tour dates you announce. Spotlight's Band is the social medias.
Yeah, so I believe our Instagram is Spotlight's Band, and let me just double check that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I should know that too.
Yeah, no, but
I believe it's at Spotlight's Band. I hope there's no underscore. I don't.
oh, you know what? It's Spotlight's Band on Facebook, and it's Spotlight's Music on Instagram.
Oh, okay, Spotlight's Music on Instagram. Got it. Cool. But yeah, follow them on social media. If you want to follow Chris's personal life, go ahead. And do you have your own personal Instagram?
Yeah, it's Chris Enriquez Drums.
Cool. Yeah. And, like we've been talking about it the whole show. You work at Revolver, so you definitely have some interesting pictures and hanging out at parties with these musicians and friends and homies. So follow him, give him some love. Any closing statements, or?
Well, Eddie, I just going to say thank you because I love what you do, and I wish more people did that. So it's cool that you support artists and allow us to be on your show. So thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Cool. We'll talk again. I'll definitely see you around.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you, and you have a good day too, man.
All right, man. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.